Egyptian troops quickly killed any crusader that was too sick to walk on their own. Then they put St. Louis and the remaining healthy crusader captives in chains and took them to Mansoura and paraded them through the streets as the locals mercilessly cheered and mocked them while pelting them with rotten fruit and hunks of goat crap.
Hey, you want to know why Jesus wasn't born in France?
Because they could not find 3 wise men or a virgin there.
What is the difference between the French women and the basketball team?
The basketball team takes a shower after 4 periods, yes?
Frenchy, why do the French people eat snails?
They eat snails because they do not like fast food. Unbeknownst to the Crusaders at this time, the Sultan Ayub died from too much stress, and his son, Turan Shah, was now the head muckety-muck of the Ayyubid dynasty. Hearing of St. Louis' capture, Turan Shah hurried from Cairo to Mansoura to view his trophy catch in person, and, of course, to claim the glory for it too, since he was the Sultan.
My bags have been lost. Give me the clean underwear from your bag, or I will force to have you beheaded.
St. Louis and Turan Shah began negotiations of his release and agreed that the Crusaders would leave Damietta and never come back to Egypt again in exchange for Louis's freedom. St. Louis also agreed to pay 500,000 shekels out of his own pocket to free the other Crusader captives.
And tell them I want the bowl of M&M's in my room with the brown ones picked out.
As St. Louis and the Sultan were signing the paperwork, a coup unfolded right before St. Louis's eyes, as the Mamluk commanders pounced on the Sultan and viciously stabbed him to death. St. Louis thought he was a goner for sure, but the Mamluks wanted his money and spared his life.
Down with the Shah! Long live the Mamluks! We in charge now!
The Mamelukes is revolting, and they smell bad too.
Not for nothing, but who taught that kid how to hold the sword?
The rebel Mamluks told St. Louis they would honor the deal he just made with their now deceased boss. But he would have to cough up 200,000 shekels right now in exchange for his freedom. So all the Christians gathered in Damietta chipped in to raise the dough for the king's release, but they were still short about 50,000 clams.
It's my last dollar. I wanted to buy some Holy Land souvenirs.
All eyes then turned towards the cheapskate Templars to pony up the rest of the cash. But they hemmed and hawed and said all their money actually belonged to their depositors and wasn't theirs to spend. The French knights, who adored their king, were pissed and threatened to take the Templars' money by force. So they relented and forked over the cash.
Oh, crap! Now we're gonna have to cancel this year's Templar Palooza.
St. Louis was nursed back to health by Muslim doctors after his bout of dysentery, and was brought back to Damietta to turn the keys over to the Mamluks before setting sail for Acre in May 1250. The Mamluks assured St. Louis that they would care for all the sickly crusaders that were left behind, but as soon as he left Damietta, they murdered them all.
I don't care if it's loaded with nitrates. It's my last meal.
After St. Louis arrived in Acre, he felt it was his Christian duty to stay in the Holy Land and help rebuild fortifications that had been demolished, and beef up the armies of Outremer with his own men, since it was his disastrous crusade that caused the death of so many native Christian soldiers.
We usually have a big military parade when kings come to visit us. But all our soldiers are dead.
Oops, my bad. Sorry about that. And, I don't like the parades anyhow. They're too damn noisy, huh?
After Holy Roman Emperor Frederick II died in December, the local lords and barons of Outremer looked to St. Louis as the de facto king and ruler of Jerusalem, because he was a saint and all, and also because they would never accept Frederick's son, Conrad IV, as the rightful heir, because he never lived in the Holy Land and didn't really give two shits about Jerusalem, and just wanted the title.
Phew! Your armpits stink. Have you guys heard about the deodorant? Huh? No? Oh.
By mid-July in 1250, the majority of the Crusaders that still survived left Acre to return to France. But St. Louis stayed in the Holy Land along with about 1,500 French knights and his wife, Queen Margaret, who gave birth to 3 of his heirs, while staying there and enjoying the Mediterranean climate, also called a dry summer climate, which typically have hot, dry summer season and mild, wet winter season.
Sacre bleu! You had another baby? Can we share some of the ones that we already got?
It's so Jeffy. He keeps pooping in his pants.
Aside from banging his queen a lot, St. Louis spent his time in Acre putting an end to Christian-on-Christian violence that was further deteriorating conditions in what was left of the Latins' control of the Holy Land, by negotiating peace deals to stop the silly infighting between the barons of Outremer.
It's these pricks from Tyre's fault. They started it.
Louie! It's you assholes from Acre that started it!
Well, calm down.
St. Louis also helped settle the Antioch crisis between the Latins and Armenians by naming the young Bohemond VI as king of Antioch and arranging for his marriage to the king of Armenia's daughter, Sibylla, which unified the two fighting factions and brought an end to the hostilities there.
I command you to get married and make the peace.
Oh, marry her? But she's just a smelly Armenian!
Well, I don't want to marry him. He farts too much, and he got a little dick.
St. Louis engaged in a little diplomacy with the Sultan Yusuf of Damascus, and a little diplomacy with the Mamluks in order to play them against each other. Although it made more sense to ally with Damascus due to their close proximity, St. Louis didn't want to piss off the Mamluks because they still had a large amount of Christians held in captivity.
And that's not all. The Syrians also say your Mamluks are homos.
To help get the Christians released from captivity, St. Louis lied and told the Mamluks he would team up with Damascus and knock down all the pyramids, even the Great One, unless they released all the Crusader prisoners. The Mamluks were more concerned with consolidating their own power, so they released 30,000 Christians in exchange for 3,000 Muslims.
Who want one last strip search?
Not me. The Templars, however, needed Damascus as an ally to keep their turf secure, so they made secret deals with Sultan Yusuf behind St. Louis' back. When St. Louis found out about the Templars' backdoor deals, he made them all march to his palace in Acre in their bare feet and forced them to get on their knees and beg forgiveness for their disloyalty.
We is bad boys. You should give us a nice spanking.
When Sultan Yusuf found out he was being played, he was pissed and began amassing his troops in Gaza to divide the Franks and Egyptians. St. Louis reciprocated by moving the Christian troops to Jaffa in a show of force. But since neither side really wanted to fight, they just hurled insults back and forth and called each other bad names. I think they're saying, "Let's go, Brandon." What does that mean? St. Louis spent about 4 years chilling out in Acre, where he was beloved by the local populace and felt it was his Christian duty to help the Latins in Outremer after the failure of his crusade, and spent all his own money to build up the fortifications of any city that was still under Christian control. St. Louis also brought a temporary peace to the Holy Land.
Easy come, easy go. We?
Eventually, France beckoned for St. Louis to come home. His mom, who was running the kingdom in his absence, had died. King Henry III of England was stirring up shit in France, and civil unrest was running rampant. And lo, in April in the year of our Lord 1254, St. Louis finally left the Holy Land. Thanks for nothing, sire. And now that the dust has settled, let's take a look at the big ball of death and get ESPN's Mel Kiper Jr.'s take on the debacle known as the Seventh Crusade. Death estimates are based on the historical fact that most people of that era were savage lunatics blinded by religious fear that thoroughly enjoyed killing people just for fun.
The seventh round is where most of the stars are gone, but plenty of quality players are still on the board. St. Louis and the Christians made some head-scratching moves on this crusade, but it doesn't necessarily have to sink their entire campaign if they fail to capture Jerusalem and have a good plan in place for the 8th round.
The Seventh Crusade was a total disaster. Although St. Louis' time spent in Acre helped to repair some of the damage and made the Latin cities a bit safer, the loss of thousands of Outremer's fighting men and decimation of the Templar and Hospitaller military orders was a devastating blow and further weakened the Crusaders' grip on the Holy Land.
Sorry, my lord. You fucked it all up again.
Yeah, rooting for you guys is like rooting for the Cleveland Browns.